Hi, folks. Happy Tuesday. Happy Election Tuesday. I hope you all went out and did your civic duty today. Somewhere here on this desk of mine, I've got my I voted sticker. And you know, if the election results start pouring in and there's something more distracting or more interesting and distracting you, feel free to divert your attention, because we got a lot of important issues that are on the docket tonight. But hey, if you want to free your mind from political things for a while and talk about geeky nature things, I'm here for you. We actually have quite a diverse lineup tonight, between different emails that have come in. A couple of things came by text over the past week from readers around the area. And then a couple of things I bumped into too, I'd like to share with you. So let's go ahead and get started. The weekly challenge of finding the right screen to share. Let's see if I can do it. I think I got it. All right. Tell you what, let's start with some Ring camera footage. This, let me close that so you can see a little bit, make it a little bit bigger here. Let's watch it a couple more times. So this came in from a St. Charles resident. He had the old Ring doorbell camera on the other night, and look what goes strolling by. Actually, you know what? It's a little pixelated when it's that size. I'm gonna make it a little smaller again. I'm gonna see if we can do frame by frame with this creature. Oh, there it goes. Now you're seeing a little reflection there as it walks by. My first impression was that was eye shine, but if we back it up, let me see if I can get it to pause. Oh, he's behind the column already. Back here, where is he? That shine, it's too big to be eyes, and it's actually lower down on the head. It's a reflective collar. So I think this is a neighborhood cat that maybe has a storied past, shall we say, because it definitely has a bobtail. Let's see if we can just back it up here. It's got, I don't know, you know, cats lose tails sometimes. I've always heard about cats that climb underneath car hoods on cold nights, and then the car starts up and the tail gets caught in a fan belt or something. This cat, actually, somebody cares about it enough that it has a reflective collar. There it goes again. But yeah, it's not a bobcat. It's a bob the cat. It has a bobtail. And just as a reminder, I pulled up this photo. This is a bobcat. This was from a trail camera image that was sent to me a few years ago. And these, just as a little refresher, are telltale signs to look for if you think you might be looking at a bona fide bobcat as opposed to a bob the cat. We've got the white and black markings on the ears. Sometimes we'll see it on the tail too. Again, if there's an incident and the cat loses the tip of its tail, that might not be quite as apparent. But the other thing about that Ring camera video, even though the tail was short, the body was very low slung and kind of wide. Bobcats are, well, they weigh, but I believe it's between 16 and 20 pounds, which there's some house cats that can get to be close to that size. But the leg length of the bobcat is usually longer. They just give a more rangy or leggy appearance when you see them. So if you live on the near west side of St. Charles and you've got a Ring doorbell camera of your own and you think you're seeing a bobcat, it's probably this guy in this Ring video, a Bob the cat. But with that said, I know the bobcats are out there. Someone just told me recently where they thought they had seen one out again in the western part of the county. So can't say never with these guys, but again, that Ring video footage, that's a Bob the cat. Then I got this. This was an image that came via text a couple of days ago, and it was a bone that was found down by the river. Let's see, says, any idea what this could be? To me, it looks like the top of a skull from a large bird of prey, but could it be a fish? I'm struggling to figure this out. Well, fish bones and bird bones, they do, there's distinct differences when you look at them and you feel them as compared to say mammal bones. Now, mammal bones are heavy. Bird bones are light. Bird bones are kind of hollow on the inside, and there's something about fish bones too. I don't know, what the makeup of them is, but they have a distinctly different feel to them too. But I'm kind of thinking this is a bird bone. This was the first image, and here we have a pen for scale, and I believe that makes this about 8 inches or so in length if I was using the right kind of pen to measure by. Well, actually maybe closer to 6.5, but that's one view of this bone. And here's the other one, and this is a little more telling. When we look underneath this bone, we see what looks like could be a part of a backbone or spinal cord arrangement. And if we go back to the top, you can kind of see, oh man, I could see where this person might have been thinking those were eye sockets, but I kind of think they might be leg sockets, and that this is a pelvis. Now I was spent more time than I probably should have over the weekend looking at images of bird pelvises, and the closest one I could come up with is this here. I like this image because it shows how things fit together, which isn't at all how most mammal pelvises would appear, but this is the skeleton of a cormorant. And as I was texting with this person, they did say that this bone was found about 10 feet from the Fox River. And so given that, I started thinking, well, what do we got? We've got mallard ducks, we've got Canada geese, kind of going in order of what is the most common things to see. I even when I looked at a couple of birds of prey pelvises, but that didn't seem quite right either. It does seem to be some sort of a waterfowl type of a pelvis, and again, the cormorant seemed to be about the right size and shape. This could be a to be continued sort of a story. This person is hoping to get me the bone at some point in the future, so maybe we can look at it in real life. Looking at these images, it might be helpful to see it from the top looking down, and get some more specific measurements of the width and things like that. Of course, as always, I would welcome anybody's input. If you have a thought you'd like to share, you feel free to share it. We're all friends here, but that's kind of the direction I'm leaning, is that it is the pelvis of one of our local waterfowl. And I'm thinking maybe a cormorant. Then, so this was not something that was sent to us. This was something I went and checked out on my own. And I don't think we talked about this last week. If we did, stop me right here because I'm going to do a deeper dive into it. This was something that arose as a complaint from our parks office. And I have to say, our parks department does a phenomenal job of keeping our parks clean and our playgrounds in tip-top shape. Every single one of our playgrounds undergoes an annual inspection for safety. And it's looked at in terms of all the equipment is looked at in terms of is it wearing okay? Are there broken pieces that need to be repaired? Everything is pretty much kept in tip-top shape. So we don't get a lot of complaints generally about our playgrounds. But this one came in and the complaint was that the playground smells bad. And the person said that, there were these stinky things, and it was just making for an unpleasant play experience. Well, you can bet I went over there to check it out, and found these stinkhorn mushrooms. They were coming up through the landscape fabric that was underneath the wood chips. And boy, they are foul-looking things, aren't they? That top is indeed kind of sticky and kind of slimy. Here's one that was poking up. This one was a little bit off to the side. The more I looked around the edges of this playground, the more I found. This, though, is how these mushrooms start out. Some people call this structure a devil's egg, not deviled egg, devil's eggs. But this is where that fruiting body arises from. Now, again, this is the Ravenel's stinkhorn. The scientific on it is Phallus ravenelii. And there's a really interesting paper that was written about a close cousin of this mushroom, the common stinkhorn, which oddly enough, the Ravenels in our area is the more common species, but the common stinkhorn, it grows west of here and in other places around the world. Well, it was noted to be able to push up through concrete and asphalt. And some scientists got curious as to just how powerful these mushrooms are. Turns out they grow quite rapidly. So when this, remember, now what we're seeing here, that's the fruiting body of the fungus. And this, that indicates that there's another part of the organism that's underneath the ground. That's the part that actually does the decomposition and all the wonderful things that fungi bring to the party. But the mycelium under the ground, when it's time to send up this fruiting body, they produce this this egg-like structure, and then that mushroom pops up, and it can grow at a rate of 10 to 15 centimeters an hour. So it's almost possible to see these things growing right in front of you. And the speed at which they do it, and then the power with which they do it, was calculated. It's something like, the mushrooms would be able to lift or punch through, I want to say, was it was it 400 pounds or 400 kilograms? I think it's 400 kilograms because it was a European study that was done. Amazing amounts of power that as the fluid in this organism pushes upward. The mushrooms that were growing at this particular playground had actually punched through the landscape fabric, which I've always found to be quite tough. It's hard to tear and everything, but these had torn through it as they came up through the wood chips. Now this one's a little bit blurry, but it shows the jelly-like consistency inside of this egg that the mushroom forms from. I have heard that these at this stage the mushroom is edible. Now, I haven't tried it. Some parts of the world consider it to be an aphrodisiac. I'm not even going to go there, but it is something that some people will go after and harvest when they find it growing in the woods. So you might think, all right, so what do we need these things for? They are useful to have around, especially when we're talking about decomposition. You know, if we didn't have decomposers, our planet would be a big mess. Things that die, whether it's organisms that, animals that die, they need to be broken down. Plant matter, we've got an abundance of that at this time of year in our area as the leaves are coming down. All that needs to get broken down by different things, and fungi are central to a lot of that. So these guys, they are typically seen in the fall. The odor, so getting back to that original call from that came into the parks office, the smell that these things produce has been called putrefying, a putrid smell, a rotting smell, fecal matter, just horrible descriptors used to describe this mushroom. I have to say, when I got to the playground and I started sniffing, all I could smell was mushrooms. And I don't know if it's one of these things where some people perceive smells one way and others perceive it another way, or if it was the stage at which these mushrooms were at. Maybe the really stinky stage was over, but I don't know. There were a lot in different stages. There were some that were just punching through. There were some that were in the process of decomposing themselves. There were some like this that were oh so attractive. Can you see who's visiting here? Let's see if we can zoom in on this fly that is attracted to that stinky odor. This is how the mushroom disperses its spores. Some mushrooms, like some of our puffballs, you tap them and poof, and you get that cloud of spores that's going to ensure that we get more puffballs in the future. Well, these guys, so they've got this sticky and stinky cap that it's putting out this aroma that attracts things like flies. So the flies there walking around, as it's on this sticky, slimy cap, these spores are attaching to its body. When the fly takes off and lands somewhere else, it's going to deposit those spores, and then we're going to get more stinkhorns sometime next year. So just kind of a cool thing, and something. There are other types of stinkhorns too. This is the biggest and the most obvious one that we get in this area, but we do have some smaller varieties. The dog stinkhorn, I think there's one called an elegant stinkhorn. They're more slender in their profile. The stem or the stalk usually has a sort of a reddish color to it, and then the cap on the top is well, kind of a similar, sometimes a darker though shade of green. But stinkhorn mushrooms, they're happening right now with the next couple of days are forecast to be still up in the 70s. I think we'll continue to see these around, maybe at a playground near you. All right, let's see what else we got here. So this was another curiosity that we ran into at, this was during a sign walkthrough, which is something the park district does on a periodic basis. All the signs in all of our parks are reviewed, and there's a kind of an order that they go through. And most of the signs end up getting updated and replaced every 5 to 10 years, depending on what the content is, if anything has changed, and if the signs themselves, if the material isn't holding up well. So coming up in 2023 is going to be a new sign redesign at Delnor Woods. So we were out there checking things out the other day, and I saw from a distance these little mounds in the, there was a bare spot in the grass. This is those, again, I know we talk about Delnor Woods a lot. If you're familiar with the park, this is would be an area right by the first pond off of Route 25. So pretty busy area. There were some other mounds similar to this, but they had been stepped on by someone. And you look at them and you think maybe an ant. This one in the lower right here looks kind of like worm castings. The soil was pretty damp. This was, let's see, what day was this? I think this was last Thursday, the 3rd. But I could see motion as I walked, was looking at these little mounds, and look who lives here. It's little sweat peas. We see a lot of ground dwelling bee activity in the spring time and in the summertime, but boy, these gals were so busy on this warm fall day last week. Let's see if we can zoom in on this one here. And this was this was in the morning, and insects, they need to warm their bodies up to about 55 degrees or so before they're able to really take off and fly. And it was this was the temperature was about 58, so they were starting to warm up, but they hadn't really reached their full motion potential yet. Here's a couple more. I think these were all females. Looking at the coloring on their backs, the white and black here on the abdomen, and then see this dark stripe on the femur of the back legs. I think, again, I think that indicates that these were all females. But they were coming out. Now, these are considered to be a solitary bee, but because they need to dig, they need a certain condition of soil in which they can dig. They will form these, what looks like a colony, but they might even share entrance holes. But once they go down in those holes, then each female will dig her own gallery and lay her own eggs and provision those eggs with nectar and pollen, which the larvae will feed on throughout the winter. They are just such colorful little things. In fact, I believe, so these are sweat bees. The genus is Agapostemon. I think I have that on another slide. I think this is the bicolored sweat bee. But yeah, the gorgeous metallic green at the front, and then the stripes down the back. They were moving kind of slowly. Here's one, I had it up on my hand, and my hand was a little warm, so maybe the bee appreciated having a little bit of a warm up. before I put her back down there in the soil. But I was kind of surprised to see them. I didn't know that they were still active this late in the year, but busy little bees they were being. Oops. Oh, all right. Well, let's move on. So this is a disturbing trend. In fact, I just got a text about this about 15 minutes ago. Let's see. So this this picture was, you could see here, it was posted in Bettendorf, Iowa swap group on, I think this was on Facebook. Eastern diamondback rattlesnake found in Bettendorf. Please be watchful of your surroundings, toilets, openings and pipes, doors, potted plants, etc. Stay safe, everyone. Spread the word and save a life. This is part of a larger and I think really disturbing trend of fear mongering that seems to be going on all different levels and all different topics all around the country. Eastern diamondback, their natural range isn't anywhere near the Quad Cities or anywhere near Illinois even. This is the Eastern diamondback is a southeastern United States species. Yes, someone could transport one and let it go somewhere, but this just kind of smacked of being a false post. This notice that I just got, very similar. It's from the DeKalb area, DeKalb, Illinois area, garage sales and more. It's a different name. So this was posted by somebody, this Bettendorf, Iowa post was Brian Butcher. The DeKalb post is by someone named, or supposedly named Uriah Mashavira. Eastern DeKalb, I'm sorry, DeKalb, hashtag DeKalb, Eastern diamond rattlesnake found in DeKalb. Please be watchful. Same thing of your surroundings, toilets, openings and pipes, doors, potted plants, etc. Stay safe, everyone. Spread the word and save a life. Well, so I think we've talked about this before, different apps that you can use to identify things, and they're, in fact, we were talking about with our partners over at the Forest Preserve District, we were talking about doing a class in how to use these different identification apps, because there's one called Seek, there's one called Picture This, there's iNaturalist. It's always good to question whatever results you get and verify them with a second source, whether it's a website or an actual in-hand field guide that you have. But one of the values, one of the nice things about those apps is that they can do image searches for you across the internet. So I took this image from the Bettendorf, Iowa swap site, and I put it into Google Lens, and it traced it to a Tampa Bay, Florida story, a news story from 2018. So again, fake news, but it's something, you know, I don't know why people do this other than to spread fear, and in this case, make people, you know, be more afraid of snakes than they might already be. But it's just something to be aware of, and you know, you can't trust everything you say. Really, sometimes you can't trust anything you see online, but if it seems highly unlikely, it could very well be highly unlikely. Anyway, let's move on. Diane, this is, I don't know if you're on tonight, but this was another series of photos from Diane from last week, from, I believe it was Maryland. But
that's right.
was this Maryland?
Maryland, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I did a little more digging on this one, and you were once again correct, Diane. This is a mason wasp. Let's see. Here we go. Four-toothed mason wasp. I was reading up on it on Bug Guide, and did you do any more investigating with it, Diane?
I watched it for about a half hour, and then I did I mean, that's how I identified it. And then, but I watched it and it looked like these were little pieces of mud.
Uh-huh.
That they were, so I think what I read is they lay their eggs in the hole, and the hole is they don't make the hole, they use the hole that was created by another boring insect of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
And then they use the mud to like pack it in, I think, or protect it.
Yeah. Now, I'm pretty sure, and again, I did use Google Lens, and then I used Bug Guide to narrow it down to this Monobia quadridens, the four-tooth mason wasp. I think now if I do this, does that show you the Bug Guide page? Or are you guys still seeing?
No, it's the Bug Guide.
Okay, so Bug Guide will tell you the derivation of the name. Like the four-tooth part of the name refers to the four teeth on the marking on the abdominal band. But I thought it was interesting what this wasp provisions its nest with. So often these solitary wasps, they key in on either a species or a genus or a family of some kind of either insect or arachnid. A lot of our mud daubers use spiders, of course, the cicada killer, cicadas. This particular wasp, the adult feeds on nectar, but the larvae are fed paralyzed, stung caterpillars. These are mostly different types of moths, but it's several families. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different families of wasps. The first few I looked up were snout moth families, but yeah, it harvests caterpillars, and like as you said, Diane, it says it usually nests in wood boring, so it doesn't make its own hole, but it will take advantage of one something else is made, and then sometimes chooses burrows in dirt banks. And it can sometimes take over where a carpenter bee is left off. So again, we've got those layers of connections. Just because one animal is done using something, it doesn't mean it's not going to be grabbed and snapped up and used by another sort of animal. An animal, like say an insect like a carpenter bee, that's an important, they're excavators. So that's an important skill that they have that an animal that can't do that can later on take advantage of. So yeah, very cool. Let's go back. Where did there we are. So was it carrying these balls of mud in?
Yes, it did. And I was sitting, it's hard to tell from the photo, but I was sitting on wooden steps.
Okay.
And it was right next to me, and it just kept on, it'd fly away and then it would come back. and then near the end, then it started bringing these little mud pellets. So it was just fascinating.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny, how sometimes I know I'll be sometimes I'll be sitting outside and you're sort of aware that there's some activity going on nearby, and it's not till you really you figure out what the motion is, and you start to watch it, and then you see well, there's a story that's unfolding here. And in this case, she's working on the next generation of mason wasps. Cool. All right, so this this picture was part of on the email list for the Wisconsin Department of Natural Resources, and this is, I thought, could serve as a pretty good heads up for us folks down here in Illinois. This was the first snowy owl of the season. It was spotted up off of Lake Superior up in Ashland, Wisconsin on November 1st. So it's been a week now since this one was sighted. I don't know if any more have been seen, but I thought it was, they noted that it was the earliest that they had seen a snowy. And there, you can tell they haven't had any snow yet, which is notable too. But anyway, we're getting into that season, and won't maybe be too much longer before we can start looking out for them here. I haven't heard of any sighted in Illinois yet, but Ashland's what, 6-8 hour drive from here. So who knows, we might be seeing snowy owls in our area sooner rather than later. All right, now this next photo, this is actually, so what this is the outside of good-natured world headquarters in an undated historic photo. And I just thought this was the coolest thing. We got this from the History Museum here in town. And what I was interested in is what we were trying to do is figure out how old the bur oak tree that's in front of the office, what does it date back to? Well, in this photo, unless it's just a wee little sapling in the foreground that was cut off, it's not here yet. And this, for some reason, I was thinking that the house here dated to around the 1920s, which is when the Baker Community Center next door was built. But when you look at these folks here, they look, that style of dress looks to be more 1800s than 1900s. And I'm not a historian. I'm just basing that on family photographs that I grew up around. My mom's, let's see, that would be my mom's, I think her great grandma, when she was a girl, her mom had a dress like that, and her dad had a collar like that in a family photo that was taken, I think, in the 1880s. So I just thought it was a really neat glimpse into the past. So just to orient yourselves, those of you who are local, this house faces north, and it's on Walnut Street. Over here at the left of the photograph, where all those shrubs and trees are, that's where the Baker Community Center sits now. And over to the right of the photo is where the Norris, well, now I guess it's the Moss Funeral Home. It's at the corner of Walnut and 3rd Street sits. So these trees on the right side of the photo aren't here anymore. And then it looks, that looks like, is that a silver maple? It's kind of coming in from the upper left-hand part of the photo. So we're working to see if the History Museum can find any, sort of date to attach to this photo, and then that'll help them better pin down the age of the bur oak tree that's out in front, the one that had the gypsy moths these last couple of years. Some other details when I was looking at this, and that they've got the windows open. So it was probably a warm day, judging by the foliage on the trees here. We're probably looking at a July or August, as far as a month of the year goes. The upstairs windows wide open, the downstairs windows are open. This one is anyway. And the stained glass that's here on the right, that's still where you come in the front door, that's still intact there. It's just really a neat historical photo, and then it might help us to get an answer on the age of that fir oak tree. All right, I just got one more item tonight. And it's the thing we'd mentioned last week when I said there won't be a good natured hour on Tuesday, December 6th. It's because we'll be down at Two Brothers Roundhouse in Aurora. This is and Sarah, thank you for directing me to the date and time and place for this event. But this is something that the Conservation Foundation, they've got different advisory councils. There's councils for each county that the Conservation Foundation serves, and then this Next Gen Advisory Council is made up of the next generation of conservationists. Those, I believe, the criteria is to be 40 or younger to serve on the Next Gen Council. This is something new they're trying. I think they've done trivia nights in the past. Conservation on Tap is a means of gathering people to just sit around, talk about conservation topics, and maybe share a tasty beverage or two. So I'm going to be down there. They asked me to bring a couple of stories. I might be able to come up with something. And I think it'll be a real good time. It's Tuesday, December 6th. From what I understand, so Ryan Solomon, who's he's our lead restoration ecologist here at the Park District. From what I understand, Ryan said that they will have a room, so it'll be noisy with our own chatter, but it'll be away from some of the other activities that might be going on at the Roundhouse at night. So, hey, if you're looking for a reason to get out and maybe enjoy some conservation talk, this might be something you want to put on your calendar. All right, let me stop the share. It looks like we got just a couple of chats here. Oh, Jerry, you're seeing white snakeroot in several neighbors' yards. Wondering how toxic it really is to humans and dogs. Can it cause irritation from just accidentally rubbing up against it? I don't think so, Jerry. I think the toxicity of the plant, it actually has to be ingested. I don't think there's any, because I've pulled it a time or two when I've found it in places. Actually, not, I've always let it go at my house, but when I used to work at Red Oak, there was a couple of places where we had plant signs. We had white snakeroot was growing everywhere. It was taking over some of the other areas that we had labeled for other plants in a demonstration garden that we had there. But I think where the problem occurs is when it's ingested. I've never worried about my dogs eating it or anything. And, now that we're talking about it, oddly enough, I had a wonderful white snakeroot plant pop up in my backyard last year. And I was so excited to see it. Or was it 2 years ago? Anyway, I didn't plant it. It just, the seeds wafted in and they grew. And it was such a neat surprise to see it. This year, nothing. I have no snakeroot in the yard.
Yeah, my guess is it's just like spread to the alleys from somebody's yard. There's one yard where it's really kind of taken over. It must spread really easily. I don't know. But all right, well, that's a relief. Okay, good.
Well, I can't remember because I know we've talked about snakeroot in past seasons in the fall. Did I tell you how I was wondering whether my grandma's little sister, if that's what she died of, was the milk sickness that's caused?
I don't remember that.
Well, and the reason I bring this up too, she's kind of fresh in my mind again because I inherited her picture. Her name was Fanny, Fanny Esther Boker was her full name, and she died at the age of 2.5. And the county that she died in, the county that my mom is from, they have put all of their death records online, going back into the 1870 or so on up through. I don't know if it goes through present day, but I was mostly looking at old relatives. Death certificates. I know it sounds morbid, but I always
I'm
heard
into
about this little girl.
ancestry, so I think that stuff is actually fascinating.
It is, the things that we don't have to worry about today that were such common killers back then. Well, little Fanny died at age 2.5 of acute gastroenteritis. And that is what milk sickness causes. When someone drinks the milk from a cow that has eaten white snake root, they can get this milk sickness, and sometimes it proves to be fatal. In fact, they say that's what killed Abraham Lincoln's mom.
That is crazy.
And I wonder, because knowing where their farm was back in the day, and this is a plant that grows in woodlands, and I would imagine they had a cow or two, and if the cow grazed in the woods and it ate the steak, is that what happened? I don't know. None of that family is around anymore, but my aunt, my mom's sister, passed away this summer, and in going through her things, there was this photo in a closet, and it's a very old photograph of a little girl, and she's not alive. She's dressed and she's holding flowers, but it was a thing people used to do back then. If they didn't have a chance to take a picture of a child before it died, they would get a picture taken after the child had died. And so anyway, I've been thinking about her lately and wondering,
Oh my gosh,
isn't that crazy? Maybe she can be a special guest, because I don't know what I'm gonna do with her.
Oh no, you can't get rid of it though.
No,
poor Fanny has to live on in memory.
Yeah,
Okay.
she deserves a legacy. But I don't know if if there's a county museum down there that would be interested in it, and I don't know for sure how to, it could just be she had a really bad tummy ache and she died, but
Yeah.
but I just wondered if that could have been what happened to her. So anyway, yeah. So to get back to your question,
Well,
Jerry,
I'm glad that you went on that train of thought, because that was
Yeah.
fascinating.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Maybe we'll explore this topic further. But don't worry about brushing up against the snake root.
Okay, cool. I was more worried for the dog than myself. Okay.
All right. Let's see, Meredith, would the stinkhorn be a problem with kids putting things in their mouths? I don't think it's I don't think so. One, I don't think anybody would, because it smells so, yucky. I don't think that would be, I don't think it's a mushroom that carries a lot of toxicity. And again, the in its smaller, the pre-eruption form, when that egg is formed from the mycelia in the soil, people actually eat those. So I think it would be, I think it's just an unpleasant odor that it creates. I don't think it produces a toxin that we need to be worried about from that respect. Good question though. And then Meg, you saw a butterfly or moths look similar to a monarch. Oh, that is interesting. On your chrysanthemum yesterday. I don't know. There could be some late, there could still be some late monarchs in the area. Oops, I'm sorry, Meg, I didn't quite catch that.
It looks like it was feeding on it. It was so
Oh.
weird.
Like lapping at the flower head?
Yes, but maybe it was the water on the,
Oh, okay.
perhaps. I
That
would
could
think.
be from the rain that we had.
Yes, yes.
And, oh, well, maybe it's Chris's monarch. She says she just released one yesterday.
Oh.
Yeah, well, and I saw, I have a friend that raises monarchs, and she saw one wafting through the air yesterday too. So it
Hmm.
it could have been a monarch.
Okay,
One-
I was so surprised.
Yeah, no, well, and our friend Valerie was saying that there's still a couple of katydids hanging on.
Huh?
So
Who knows?
if they can, yeah, if they can avoid getting, getting hit by the frost, if they can get out of it. A lot of them are gone by now, but there's still a few hangers on. So yeah, I would say that maybe you did see a monarch yesterday. That'd be wishing it well. You tell it to not waste too much time and get a move on. But I think they're saying what, 70 on Thursday. So
Yeah.
it's certainly insect weather still.
Okay.
And these little sweat bees are still doing their thing, and the flies are still going to the stinkhorns. So yeah, till it's below not below zero, but below freezing for an extended period. I was gonna include it, and then I thought, well, maybe I'll wait and see if it gets torn open. When the leaves came off the tree in front of my house, I saw that there's a bald-faced hornet nest up there, and I was looking at it the other day in the sunshine, and I didn't see any activity there. And I thought that was kind of strange. I didn't think it had been that cold for that long to knock all of the wasps out of, to knock them out. I thought there should be still some activity there, but we'll see again. And when the sun's shining on it on the 70-degree day, maybe I'll watch it again. But if does anybody else have anything they'd like to share? If
That ursolitis is a milk disease. If you drink some kind of, I'm not sure how to spell it, but it's
from the milk sickness.
yes.
Ah,
I don't remember too much about it, but
it's
maybe
well,
from unpasteurized milk or something. I can't recall. I'm sorry.
well, there's I remember when I because I wrote about snake root, I was thinking it was just last fall, and the columns, they all kind of blur in my mind, but when I had written about it before, I was I did a kind of a deep dive into how that connection was made, because back then when people got sick, there wasn't a lot of medical research or science to lean on, and to draw the connection between the milk you drank, amongst all the other things you ate and drank. The water could have been bad, the meat could have been bad, so many things could make you sick back then, and people didn't realize what one thing led to another. But it was actually, I want to say she was a Cherokee woman who actually made the connection down. She lived in Southern Illinois, and being one Native person and two a woman, her opinions and her research wasn't considered sound for many years. And then finally they were like, well, yep, she was right. So, but it's, yeah, it's fascinating stuff. Brucellosis. Dr. Sarah's chiming in. That's something I remember reading about in the James Herriot books, having the cows. I think that was something they would be vaccinated against, I believe.
Thank you, Sarah, for the correct spelling.
Yeah, that's a bacterial infection, kind of similar to TB.
Oh.
Bacterial.
Well, let's not end on that note. Let's end on something more positive. Let's look forward to a couple of days of warm Indian summer, still kind of weather. Get out if you can, get some good nature, get a good dose of it. We'll look forward to getting together next week. How does that sound? Next Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, we'll be here. Maybe I'll have more information on Good Natured World headquarters too. All right. You all take care and see you next Tuesday.
Thank you. Good
Thanks,
night.
Pam.
Thanks, Pam.
Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thanks, Pam.
Good one.
Yeah.